So last time we were seeing the miasma simile of how the nether forces arise from below and creep on the wall and give out noxious smell, how they can be dangerous, how they can even cause death. That is the miasma simile we have seen last time. Now, as I was also telling, this is something very modern. It shows how Savitri can be modern without becoming facile, without becoming abstract, without becoming artificial. It has the essential rasa of even what one would call the ugly, the uncouth, the bibhatsa. What is bibhatsa? That also can become extremely beautiful in a poetic language, and that is what we have in this miasma simile. So apart from the modernism of Savitri, we have at the same time in it the epic greatness, the grandeur, the loftiness, the elevating spirit which lifts up even the uncouth and the ugly and the bibhatsa to the lovely and the pleasant and the happy. That is what we have in Savitri actually. Not only that, this is perhaps one of the longest epic similes, running into 13 lines of a pentametric verse, which even a modernist like Eliot may not be able to accomplish in his creations. Savitri is at the same time epic, modern, and can, without any hesitation, but with a true sense, tell you something of what is not very pleasing to our immediate senses and perceptions. When you read that passage, you don't get kind of thrown back. You have a sort of a relationship with it that, look, this is there sitting in me. All that dirt, that ugliness, that evil, that sin is sitting in my subconscious. And my business is not to dwell in that, to live in that mud, but to come out of it, purify it, offer it to Agni, to fire, Agni Pavaka, who is the purifier of all that is retrograde, repulsive, not acceptable to human progress, which comes in the way of spiritual accomplishment. It is that which you offer. So it is from that point of view you can see that this is also an offering to Agni of what is residing in the past. Savitri is seeing the whole thing in a dream consciousness, a cosmic dream seen in the cosmic past, showing the cosmic past. And it is that cosmic past which has to be brought out fully in all its contents, in all its possibilities and depths, and even horror, and offered to Agni to purify it. In the Yoga Agni, Savitri has to purify that thing in the fire of her yogic pursuit, of her accomplishment. So it is an epic simile, very rare epic simile on a long scale like that, running into 13 lines, pentametric verse, which is very unusual for any kind of a poetry coming from this side. Now, let us continue with that further. Afflicting the daylight and alarming night, invading at will his outer tenement, our outer faculties, surface faculties, mental, vital, even physical, gross physical, all these faculties. These are the faculties in which we live, afflicting the daylight and alarming night, invading at will his outer tenement. His, that is man. Man's, all these outer faculties are there. They are invading, these dark forces surging up from below, they are invading him constantly. The stark globes, grisly, dire inhabitants, these inhabitants of the world down below, the nether world, grisly, causing fear, causing horror in us, a feeling of repulsion, we are kind of thrown back. These are the inhabitants who rise from below and invade all our outer houses, outer buildings, mansions, everything they invade like that. The star glooms, grisly, dire inhabitants, mounting into God's light. What of man? Even they can go and strike God's light. They are such powerful forces, beings, they can even go up, mounting into God's light. All light perturb, whether it is the light of the stars or the sun, the spiritual light, or whatever light it may be of the gods, even that light they are capable of perturbing. They can cause disturbance in that light, they can affect it, they can overshadow even that light. Such is the power of the forces which rise from down below in man. So man becomes an instrument for these forces to come up and play havoc in the life of this world here. The star glooms, grisly, dire inhabitants, mounting into God's light, all light perturb. Sages, rishis, munis, even their light, they can cause disturbance. The only surety for us is to have the psychic flame constantly burning in us, and it is that psychic flame which will give us protection, which will put us directly in contact with the divine. It will not get misled. It will not mislead us at all. Mounting into God's light, all light they perturb, the inhabitants rising from below. All they had touched or seen, they make their own. They swallow. The moment they see somebody around, lovely, beautiful, precious, having wealth, or whatever you want to call that, they would like to possess and grab it and own it for their own use. See, all they had touched or seen, they make their own. In nature's basement lodge, mind's passages fill, disrupt thoughts' links and musing sequences, break to the soul's stillness with a noise and cry. Or they call the inhabitants of the abyss. They themselves call people who are living in Patala, in the lower world, in the nether world, in the abyss. They will call, invite, come, here is a chance for you, and they will take their help also to do all that havoc. Or they call the inhabitants of the abyss, invite the instincts to forbidden joys, a laughter wake of dread demoniac mirth, Rakshasi Ananda. That is what we do. Their hasya will be demoniac hasya. That is what they will do. A laughter wave of dread demoniac mirth, and with neither rat and revel, shake life's floor. This is the grisly picture, this is the horrifying picture, this is a terrible picture which is presented here to us because of the nether forces rising up. Impotent to quell his terrible prisoners, appalled the householder, helpless, sits above. Taken from him, his house is no more with him. See, they have come and occupied your house. They have become masters. They have driven you out completely. And the householder, the owner of the house, is helpless. They have taken possession of it. You can go to hell, do whatever you like. Now this is my house. They have commanded him. Impotent to quell his terrible prisoner. Man is impotent. He cannot stop these people at all. See. Appalled, the householder, helpless, sits above, taken from him. His house is no more. He is bound and forced, a victim of the play. So he has become the captive. He has become their prisoner now. He is trapped by them. Or allured, joy is in a mad and mighty din. Or they'll put a kind of bait, allure him, attract him, and ask him to do all kind of those ugly things which they would like him to do, so that he becomes their property fully. His nature's dangerous forces have arisen. All that was lying dormant until now, they have now sprung up. His nature's dangerous forces have arisen and hold at will a rebel's holiday. So they are merrily enjoying everything. It's a holiday for them. This is a man now available to me, and they are feasting on him. They are enjoying that kind of a feast because he is now fully trapped. His nature's dangerous forces have arisen and hold at will a rebel's holiday. Aroused from the darkness where they crouch in the depths until now they are lying down below in the nether, in the pit, in Patala, in the subterranean regions. Prisoned from the sight, they can be held no more. Impossible now to hold them back, rein them back. His nature's impulses are now his lords. So whatever man sees, he is driven by his senses, his passion, his love, lust, anger, growth, all those things start coming up. He sees only ugly thing, he hears only ugly thing, he tastes only ugly thing. This is what happens now in the case of a man who is a captive of these inhabitants. Aroused from the darkness where they crouch in the dell, prisoned from the sight, they can be held no more. His nature's impulses are now his lords, once quelled, or wearing spacious names and vests. So they will put on false clothes. They will assume false name. They will be always deceptive, spacious, wearing spacious clothes, vests. That is what they will do. Infernal, eternal elements, demon powers are there. These are the powers. Man's lower nature hides these awful guests. So they have become our guests. They have become our Mehman. We have become now the host of these powers. See. Man's lower nature hides these awful guests. Their vast contagion grips sometimes man's world. Everything he is busy with comes under their hold now. And awful insurgence overpowers man's soul. Sometimes man's soul might arise, but his violent forces they come and oppose him, they stop him, they suppress him totally, so that he cannot even talk of anything at all. That is what happens when these forces arise. In house and house, the huge uprising grows. So here is one man. Or in one part of man's house, this happens. It happens first in one part, then it starts happening in the other part, in the third part. That way the whole house of man is now under control. It is not only now in one man, from house to house, from man to man, it keeps on spreading. In house and house, the huge uprising grows. Hell's companies are loosed to do their work. Hell's companies, the cavalry riders on cavalry, the forces as if marching in a company of a cavalry. They invade this house, they capture the entire street like that. Hell's companies are loose to do the work, and to the earthways they break out from all doors, wherever there is a weakness, where there is something which is not really open to the higher forces in us. Suddenly they capture and they make entry to that. Invade with bloodlust and a will to slay, and filled with horror and carnage, God's fair world. So this beautiful world which is made by God, this merit, they fill it with horror. There is a big fire burning as though throughout it. Hell's companies. Now there are different kinds of companies. A group of cows you call a herd. A group of chickens you call a flock. A group of fish you call a school of fish. Geese, group of geese, call it a gaggle of geese. Lions, number of lions in the forest, pride of lions. Now here we got a pack of wolves. They come and pounce and eat you upon everything. Not only that, vicious, lusty, cruel, harsh. They're baboons. They form a congress of baboons. That is what they do. Now it is that kind of a company which invades man's life and captures whatever precious is there in him. So this is a very cruel kind of a picture, a very ghastly picture which we see. But it is there in the cosmic past. And Savitri, as I said, has to see that thing and offer it to the divine Agni. Divya Jyota, she has to light there and bring light to the whole thing. Death and his hunters. You see, we had got the group of people, companies, flocks, packs. We have got now hunters. Death and his hunters. They keep on hunting around. Stop a victim out. The terrible angel smites at every door. The angel of death, the ill angel, he comes and knocks at every door and demands his share. An awful laughter mocks at the world's pain. Oh, you are suffering, but he loves. A sardonic laughter. And massacre and torture grin at heaven. All is a prey of the destroying force. So this is the force which will come and destroy, and you have become a prey to that, a victim to that. He will come and pounce upon you and just swallow you up without any mercy. Creation rocks and tremble, top and base, even the higher worlds. The lower, of course, they do. Even the higher worlds, the worlds of gods are also shaken when these forces arise. That is what Ravana did. He shook the heaven. Even Kailash could tremble with that thing, you see. Creation rocks and tremble, top and base. Even the gods were imprisoned by Ravana, you see. You know that. You see. So what of man? This evil nature housed in human hearts. We don't know that such an evil exists in our heart. A foreign inhabitant, a dangerous guest, the soul that harbors it, it can dislodge. Who is harboring these guests, these evil forces? My soul only. And it is that soul these forces can dislodge. Throw him away, remove him, knock him off. The soul itself can be knocked off from our existence, and then you are totally in his possession. Well, this is what happened in the case of Faustus. Mephistopheles captured him slowly, and literally swallowed him up. You see, it is only the divine grace, Margaret, who could perhaps save him. Expel the house odor, possess the house, an opposite potency contradicting God, the enemy of God, the opposite. See, as God has certain capabilities, powers and all that thing, even these forces also have certain powers and capabilities. These are the opposite potencies of these evil forces. And they have tremendous power to cause havoc in this entire creation. An opposite potency contradicting God, they can challenge God. That is what Satan did, Lucifer, who had fallen. That is what he did. A momentary evil's almightiness has straddled the straight path of nature's acts. Poor nature was walking on a simple, straightforward manner, but these people have come and straddled on the road and stopped her. It initiates the Godhead, it denies whatever was there, it denies the Godhead, it imitates the Godhead, it denies, it follows. He is my God, he will follow exactly what the God would do, imitate him all the while. All this at the same time denying him, God's greatness. It imitates the Godhead, it denies, puts on his figure, assume his face, and yet do what is native to them, according to their swabhava, according to their character. They will keep on doing that thing. Although they will wear a very holy face, very noble face, very peaceful, quiet kind of a face, bright face also, but they will do what they are intended to do. It imitates the Godhead, it denies, puts on his figure, and assume his face. A Manichaean creator and destroyer. This can abolish man, annul the human, annul his world. This is what they can do. Manichaean or two opposite kinds, darkness and light, evil and good, fair and ugly. This is the kind of a thing. Creation and destruction. When these two combine together, then you have a Manichaean creator, a religion which believes in the coexistence, in the presence of both the opposites, the fair and the ugly, the evil and the good, destruction and creation, a religion which believes in these two. That is the Manichaean religion, creation. So a Manichaean creator and destroyer, this can abolish man because it believes in both. It imitates Godhead and it will do whatever it wants to do. This can abolish man, annul his world, but there is a guardian power. There are hands that save. Calm eyes divine regard the human scene. Now this is the yogic touch Sri Aurobindo, as a yogi, will tell you all that is ugly, very bad, very destructive, horrible, grisly, whatever. He has described the entire cosmic past. Yes, this cosmic past does exist. There are terrible agencies sitting in our soul. Yes, they are there. But there is the yogic assurance. The yogi tells us there is a guardian power. Above all this, there is a power which will save this creation. It will not allow all to be run by these hostile forces, by these antagonist powers. It will not allow. There is a guardian power. There are hands that save. Calm eyes. There are eyes calm without getting disturbed by this picture. Calm eyes see the human scene. It sees, yes, it is like that, but it is not going to be always like that, need not be like that. It can change, it can become bright. There is a possibility of that is already indicated here. So you have immediately the touch of gold when you are seeing everything ugly. Yes, don't worry. The existence is like this. The existential reality is of darkness, but that is not all the reality. There are possibilities of man. There are greater powers. There is a greater supervisor seeing everything from above. He can come and intervene and change everything. So there is an assurance also here. But there is a guardian power. There are hands that save, calm eyes, divine regard the human scene. God is there above and He is seeing everything around, and He knows how to act, when to act, in what manner to act. He comes here from time to time when these agents become extremely strong for man to handle them at all. He comes here age after age, yuge. He comes as an avatar and destroys the evil so that the future path is opened out for him. He comes here. There are hands. This is what happens. The avatar comes here and he will accomplish things. He will remove all these obstacles. In fact, that is what happens in all the cases. And it is only because of that that there is a hope for us. All right, there are hands which will come and save you. Does it mean that we don't have any role to play? Is it that we remain all the while stupid, foolish, with all the absurdity which is present in us? Is there something for us to do? Is there an element of responsibility on us that we have to attend to some work of ours? Yes, it is there. Of course, He will come and He will remove everything. But you have to also do your bit. That is in the nature of things. That is required also. Yes, I will kill all the enemies on the battlefield. But Arjuna, come, rise and lift up your bow and arrow and shoot at the enemy. Enemy who has already been killed by me, but you are required to string your bow and shoot the arrow at the enemy. That is a part which we have to do. Our Kshatriya Dharma on the battlefield is required. Our Brahma Teja is required in our learning and knowledge. Our harmonious element of bhakti and sweetness and joy, that has to come out and offer itself to Mahalakshmi, our skill in work, attention to details, every little bit, that there is nothing ugly, there is nothing disharmonious is to be done. We had to be the instruments of Mahasaraswati also. That is our part. We had to be simultaneously in different degrees, depending upon our soul's nature, be the worshippers of Maheshwari or Mahakali or Mahalakshmi or Mahasaraswati. If you can become the worshipper of all of them at once, well, nothing like that. Most wonderful. That is the part which we have to do. When that is done, the hand comes and saves you. Otherwise, what can it do also, you see? That is our part which we have to fulfill. In fact, that is the important thing. The very foundation of Sri Aurobindo's yoga is in 3 words: aspiration, rejection, surrender. When you aspire, when you reject everything which is ugly, which is non-progressive, by which you are held back, that you have to reject. That is an effort which you have to do. She is not going to do for you. Then offer all your things to the Divine Mother, to the Supreme Power, and she will do then whatever is to be done for you. That is the part which we have to play. That is necessary. So although there is a Savior hand, yet many hands of ours are also needed for that Savior hand to do its work.